For part 2 of the test, we're dealing with composite functions, where you plug in one function into the other. The very first thing to do with number 7 is to understand what that means. And what does that mean? It means P of Q of 3. So P on the outside, Q of 3 on the inside. That's what it means. Okay? So once you understand what it means, it should be easy, because you now know that you're going to be plugging in 3 into Q and then getting that answer and plugging it back into P. Okay? So if we look at what Q is simply x squared minus 4. If we take the 3 and put it inside Q, it's going to be 3 squared minus 4. What's 3 squared? 9. What's 9 minus 4? 5. So what I really have is P of 5, because Q of 3 is really 5, so I really have P of 5. So now what we're going to do is plug in 5 into P, and we'll have 3 times 5, which is 15, and 15 minus 6, which is 9. 15 minus 6 is 9. And that's your final answer right there. Again, it's important to understand that POQ, parenthesis 3, means P of Q of 3. So it's 3 plugged into Q, and then that answer 5 plugged into P, and you get the final answer 9. Number 8, we're going to plug in 4 into Q. So think about this. What is 4 squared? 16. And 16 minus 4 is 12, correct? So Q of 4 is really 12. So let me rewrite everything. I have an R right here, R of 12, and then I have P on the far outside. So this is saying Q of 4 is really 12, so I really have R of 12, which is all going to be inside P. In other words, P of R of 12. So now let me go with this R of 12, and let me plug in 12 into R. R is the third function, and R has a square root in it. So let me take 12 and plug it into R. What's 12 plus 4? 16. What's 16? The square root of 16, 4. And what's 4 plus 7? 11. So we have 11 instead of R of 12, and we have P out there. So final step would be to do P of 11, and that would mean to take 11 and plug it inside right here where P is at. 3 times 11 is 33, and 33 minus 6 is 27. So your final answer is 27 right there. I hope you guys understand that. Let's move on to number 9. Number 9, it says P over Q with the X. Now that's the notation for P of X over Q of X. We need to be familiar with that notation. So I'm really going to take the P of X function and put it over the Q of X function. So here I go. It's 3x minus 6 over x squared minus 4. What could I do? I could factor the top and factor the bottom. So if I factor the top, I'll have 3 on the outside by pulling out the 3. What would I have left on the inside? X minus 2. And on the bottom, what could I factor? What could it factor to? Okay, so x minus 2x plus 2, that's right. So what's the whole purpose of factoring? To be able to cancel something out. That's exactly what happens here. So the x minus 2 cancels with the x minus 2, and that leaves us with our final answer right here, which is 3 over x plus 2. I hope that makes sense. Let's move on to number 10. Number 10 is saying to take your q of x function and plugging it into your r of x function. So again, working from the inside out, take your q of x function, put it inside your r of x function. So that means I want to take my q of x function, which is x squared minus 4, and plug it inside my x value right there, my input spot for my r of x function. So it'd be a great idea to start by rewriting your r of x function, which is a square root of x plus 4 with the plus 7 on the outside. Now the reason why I didn't put this x right here is because I'm going to plug in the x squared minus 4. X squared minus 4. Now you could put this in parentheses right here, but there's nothing to distribute, so it's pointless to have the parentheses. And I hope you guys aren't copying this down right now. I hope you guys are just watching, understanding, and then you could try it later, all right? And this will all be on Edmodo anyway. So on the inside of the radical, we could combine the minus 4 with the plus 4. It cancels out. So what I really have is a square root of x squared plus 7. And what happens with the square root of x squared? Cancels out. So my final answer is just x plus 7. Ta-da! That's number 10. Let's try number 11 over here. And number 11 says q of x minus p of x. So that one's the easiest one, I think. Q of x is simply x squared minus 4. And p of x is 3x minus 6. Now, because it says minus between them, it'd be a good idea. You need the parentheses. That way it'll help you remember to distribute the minus sign to each term. So you're really going to have x squared minus 4. Nothing happened to the first binomial, but I really have a negative 3x plus 6 as a second binomial. The only thing left to do would be to rearrange this thing, put it in order, and combine like terms, the negative 4 with the 6. That'll give you a positive 2. And if we rearrange this thing, you want the highest exponential term first, the x squared, and then bring down the minus 3x. Ladies and gentlemen, we're done. There's our final answer for number 11. And that is the second half of the test. All right? Tomorrow's test is going to be equal amount of value. The first half is about 50% of it. The second half is 50% of it. So make sure you understand both of these videos. If you want more practice, watch the previous 4 videos that I posted earlier this week and last week. I hope it helps.